Hello. So today's news. Before that, if you find any value in going through such newspaper, please let us know. The first is 28% GST on online gaming, and this will kick in from October 1st. I think this news was yesterday as well. And the government is going to do a lot of amendments and all. Because of the Fitch derating of US US downgrade, it rattled Indian equities and it was considered a knee-jerk reaction, and there could be some short-term. I mean, it was more like a short-term, and there might be some cosmetic impact. But the message to US was to improve debt management, and more can be understood from this article. I've marked it. Similarly, due to that, again, the rupee also fell by 32 paisa. One interesting news was Indigo's Q1 profit soared to almost 3,000 crore, and this is most likely because of higher people. I mean, not most likely, but because people are traveling a lot, and that's what companies has been also attributing to that increased domestic demand. Titan had a increase in revenue, but a drop in their profits by almost 4.3%. Another interesting news is Tesla leases space in Pune for its first office in India. And this news has been going on, and entry of Tesla into the Indian auto and auto ancillary space would be very interesting. And so, one of my interest would be if Tesla has or goes through some joint venture or partnership with Tata Motors. So that'll be pretty interesting. Bank's cost of fund is up around 1%. So because most people are kind of shifting their money to from savings to fixed deposits. So that's one of the key reason. There's also this weighted average domestic term deposit rate. So it'll be interesting to note. There is supposed to be a monsoon break, but it might not affect paddy because what this article says is the eastern part is sufficient. It might or it's predicted to get sufficient amount of rainfall, but the other places such as Andhra, Telangana, Punjab, Haryana are mostly irrigated, so they will not be heavily impacted. Uh, Hero MotoCorp is increasing the prices of Harley-Davidson X440. I think this is in the premium cycle. We also see a lot of stress in the startup space, and they're firing almost 60 employees by a startup called Active.ai. Another interesting area is Coromandel International. They have had an increased in consolidated profit, uh, which is almost 37% increase actually. And however, their sales have increased by 5%. So a lot of operating leverage playing in. And this is an interesting idea with respect to manufacturing because they produce abrasives. Now, Titan's Q1 net profit again drops to 4% to 756 crore. And the company sort of gives the breakup of the various uh, areas where they have seen growth in revenue. Uh, the other, sorry, yeah, I missed this one. Indigo's profit soars to 3,000 crore, and the company plans to float a venture capital fund. Mostly, they would tender to investments in aviation, consumer, allied sector, travel, and hospitality. These areas. The only challenge is till now, I mean, for Indigo, there's still a yield dip that is happening. So from 5.24 to 5, almost 5.18. Indigo also grew its number of aircraft to 316 from 304, and it had operated almost 1,873 daily flights in its peak days. The next is valuation of 10 unicorn drops below the $1 billion, and mostly it's based on the USD to INR conversion. That could be one of the reason for external investors reevaluating valuation by many I mean, people who are holding it, VC firms, and also the general market condition. Uh, these are some of the companies who have seen a drop, and some interesting numbers over here. Almost 72 out of 91, I think out of 91 or 72 to 91 companies uh, or unicorns are still loss making. So that's something to look at. Um, this article kind of gives more in details about it, and one can read through this one again from the website. I mean, this is yeah. Ambuja Cement again better realization. It's up 331% on better realization, and there's a lot of talk about group synergies. Again, I think Ambuja has also bought a stake today morning itself in I forgot the company's name in one of the company anyways uh, today itself. Maruti Suzuki's Alto crosses around 45 lakh mark. So they have been selling Alto since 2020, and this gives the breakup of the Alto. And around 100 Altos were sold every day, and these sales are happening around tier two and tier three cities. Uh, and there is also a customer profile for this Maruti Suzuki cars. I mean, who's buying it and for what purpose? Mostly by first-time buyers. Freshwork again reports a lower net loss in the June quarter, which is a good thing for them. This article is from L&T. Interesting article. It talks about the the growth in the infrastructure and how the company wants to or sees them growing. They say that they have around 10 to 12% revenue growth and how they are going to achieve in the next in the next 3 quarters. And these are generally due to domestic and international order uptake and high-speed train corridor, union government elections, etc. HPCL again posts a net profit of 6,766 crore in quarter one. Then there's another interesting thing about telecos now being able to trade in spectrum as per block size of last auction. So originally telecos had to, I think the trading was more bigger. I mean, the amount of block or the block size was much larger, and now they can give it into reduced sizes. This is interesting for domestic networks. So, for example, Industry 4.0 players can install uh, the required frequency in their respective area, so in a factory premise and use it. So this is pretty interesting, and one can go through this one. These were the original trading norms, and what has been changed, and also spectrum trading. Another interesting thing is Foxconn commits around 5,000 crore more in Karnataka. Originally, they had around, I think, um, they had committed a large amount, I think around 14,000 crore, but they'll additionally put in 5,000 crore more. Uh, so, yeah. Then India unlikely to keep bar high for BRICS expansion. I mean, they want more people to join as long as they support UNSC reforms. Um, Political in nature, but I mean, it'll be interesting. It looks good to see India's position globally. There's another this Vivad Se Vishwas scheme to settle contractual disputes, and 31st October is the last date. Then participatory note investment has increased due to stable macroeconomic fundamentals, mostly by debt funds, hybrid securities. Then another thing which the government is doing is small businesses selling via e-commerce platform exempt for compulsory GST registration. This is a very good news for small and medium businesses and artisans, household, cottage industry, women entrepreneurs who conduct their businesses from home and supplement income of the family. This has been a pain point for a lot of time, and there are 8 conditions which they need to fulfill so that they don't have to do a mandatory GST registration. Now, GST is needed if for these conditions, threshold of annual turnover. Yeah, there are still 6 PSB public sector banks working without chairman. These are the banks, and there's some financials coming from Selene Estate and AVT Natural Products. This is the Technophile. I mean, I've not covered some things you can go through, maybe. Yeah. Another interesting thing is Indian banks outperform global peers on key metrics. Their price to book the top three banks are enjoying a price to book of 2.5, whereas their global peers are between 0.5 to 1.5. So they are expensive, but they're they're outperforming based on growth, profitability, strong profitability, higher growth, prudent risk management, and there could be some risk or some near-term slowdown due to slow deposit growth, increased of credit tested customer, and you know these are the major things. Um, there's a lot of interesting things over here which could be looked at, asset composition and all, because of ONDC and all, and how the governments or how the banks, both public and private sector banks, can uh, increase their market share and their revenue. Now, UPI transaction hit a record of 15 lakh crore in July, which is humongous number, and it's up by 4% on month and 44% on year basis, which is also surprisingly amazing. And these are the some numbers, good, interesting statistics. India is third com and are behind US and China in digital payments. IOB improves CASA ratio, but this is because they have been focused on saving and they've jacked up the saving prices instead of term deposits. That's what I understood. Interesting read, public sector bank. Another uh, financial result from Precall and Lakshmi Mills, Polyspin. Um, Interesting article from Thomas Cook. They see that forex demand from small town students are increasing because of the aspiration uh, to study abroad, tier 3, tier 2 cities, and they are from these locations. It's also a large market, 3.6 billion, with almost 7 lakh students traveling every year. And the average spend by a tier 3 city, tier 2, tier 3 city student is almost $5,000, where it's almost $750 more by a tier 1 city. And they expect a turnover of 2x from Indian tier 2 and tier 3 city, I think, in the next 1 or 2 year. In fact, in 3 years, their revenues have been tripling, doubling. So over here, growth in turnover from students traveling. Okay. So the next is from Paradeep Phosphate. I mean, this is just the annual report, Polyspin Export. Could be interesting to see what these companies do. Maybe next time I'll try to add it. There's this note, or I mean, or maybe this is more of a perspective, how this Drug and Cosmetic Act seems justified because there's a lot of spurious drugs that's ongoing, and another article on government's policy approach towards AI, generative AI, large language model, uh, to ensure that privacy, data protection, information integrity, and transparent government framework uh, are set up. So these sort of stuff. Then Finch, Fitch downgrade flags US borrowing binge. Again, this is a pretty popular news. I mean, US deficit to increase to 6.3% of GDP from in 2023 from 3.7% in 2022. So US is borrowing a lot, and this sort of I mean, not much impact on Indian markets, but interesting to read how this will work for the debt market. This is also over here. I mean, this de-rating also happened in 2011, but but it was some sort of erroneous. I'm not too deep into that topic, and maybe you can read through this one. Then there's another think section, Camel in financial sector tent. So basically, in terms of board and CEO composition and corporate governance. And I mean, one can read through this again. Interesting article. There's this another added term called conduct risk, which is again not easy to assess. And so the bank should add this as a part of this camel. So conduct risk, capital adequacy, asset quality, management, earnings, liquidity framework. Then there's another article on Tiger Reserve and how do they benefit us with respect to water, trophic levels, environment. Yeah. And this gives an economic justification of why we should conserve such environments. Education in regional language, again, emphasis on English, but also have mother tongue. Then yesterday, Sensex and Nifty fell off because of this large global sell-off, and AMC stocks are getting mixed rating. There's an upcoming regulation from SEBI on TER, so that could be interesting to note. I think Nippon Mutual Fund, Nippon India AMC jumped almost 25% year on year. Yeah. SEBI canceling some broking license of MMTC. Brookfield REIT raises almost 2,300 crore by QIP, and this also kind of shows the real estate market. I mean, the uptick in the real estate market. IPCA Lab again picks up stake in Unichem for 945 crore, and I think yeah, IPCA has given a good return in the last 1 month, around 19% up. Then some broker's choice, Sansera Engineering and BSC. Some information over here to be pondered upon. Motilal Oswal talks about Transport Corporation, supply chain management and logistics. Now, Indian Inc. So basically, large companies like ArcelorMittal, Reliance, uh, they have raised a lot of money from abroad, uh, almost 20 billion dollars, and this is the overall borrowing every year. So overseas borrowing hits a fresh quarterly high. So hopefully this year, I mean, it's just starting off this year, so we'll see this as pretty large compared to last year's. Mainly, this is because of all the, uh, I mean, the reason why they borrowed is modernization was the major reason, and then capital goods purchase and refinancing of earlier external commercial borrowings. Um, Next is Godrej Properties. Again, their profits also jump, but they have some issue with the Gurugram project. They are going to take back the flats, rebuild it, and send it back. There was a fall in booking, but overall, this shows the uptick in the real estate market again. TajSATS, again, interesting. They are the largest, they have 60% market share and they supply all this in-flight food, right? So they are part of Indian Hotel Companies Limited, and they want to expand to other places. Yeah. Then OYO adds almost 1,000 hotels, so they are planning for an IPO. It'll be interesting. Adjusted EBITDA again over here, and let's see. Ixigo also plans to enter hotel segment this year. Make My Trip already made good earnings this year, so let's see how Ixigo comes in and what is this. Then there's another small article on Sagar Cement, and they would improve efficiency. That's what they're saying, but their Q1 performance was not that great. Um, Gold gains as well as copper gains and copper slips actually, and they're expecting some stimulus from Chinese. So let's see how that picks up. Uh, Monsoon, again, this was that old thing. Monsoon may not affect paddy. Another thing is FCI sells almost 97% of wheat in e-auction, and the average selling price is also up. What is interesting to note is, I mean, the government wants to stabilize the price of because there's a rice export ban. So there is also a weekly auction. And what I'll be interesting to know is if any IT company is actually working on this. I mean, they provide the solution for this one. So that's the article which one can read. Fairly interesting. Yeah. Um, Then again, crude oil is up based on robust demand in US. Sugar output may fall in the next season on cane diversion. So basically, sugar is being sent for one, ethanol production, and second, the acreage in Maharashtra is kind of down this year. So this gives the general acreage in various parts of the country. India also assures Mozambique of unrestricted tur and udad imports. So India imports these two things from from Mozambique, and they said that they will not stop the import. Again, this is with respect to this lemon chili. They talk in terms of organic farming without pesticide, etc., and they are doing something out there. The sugar industry seeks a 6.5% hike in ethanol prices to make it more viable. This part of the article gives some good numbers on how much does it cost to produce ethanol from various items like B heavy, molasses, rice, maize, etc. Kerala, on the other hand, capitalizes on center's millet affinity, so they're asking the tribals to kind of grow millets. Natural gas, if it falls below 212, the article says that you can buy and buy the futures, expected to go up till 227. There's another sustainable sugarcane cultivation from UPL SAS and Olam Agri Partners. Interesting, but not much for me. Uh, Then this is interesting. Indian Railway and IIT Madras Inc. MOU for 5G test bed. 5G in Indian Railways could be used good because of driver monitoring systems and all, but I'm not sure how practical that would be. In the automotive space, definitely there's a lot of usage. ED again, jewelry seized from Munjal. So basically, this is Hero MotoCorp. Um, this is another Russia supply cut might take place, and this might increase the prices of crude. So, so India is sort of buying more oil. Then government open to debate on all bills. This is like discussion political. Again, these two are political, so I crossed it out. Um, this is interesting. CBIC basically says that food sold at cinema halls, if it is bought with a ticket, it will have a different GST rate versus food sold without a ticket. So there's a composite supply concept and all could be looked at. The next is e-commerce policy alignment aligned with consumer protection rules. So we would see a lot of these e-commerce businesses which sell their own product to get reduced even further. So it will be a good for Indian MSMEs. Then Tata Power ARM inks two power purchase agreements with discoms in Maharashtra. Again, these are all renewable agreements. So 200 and 150 megawatt, and they are expected to be commissioned by mid of 2025. Center again prohibits two drugs, aceclofenac and ketoprofen. These are these kills vultures and not good. Then there is another shipping ministry investing almost 4,600 crore on Varanasi Haldia waterway. I think there's a company called Knowledge Marine, could be an interesting choice based on water-based transit. Then again, Devas also lost the case in US. Not very important. Important for India, but not for us probably. Then Chinese car maker BYD comes under Indian tax probe. Again, this is because of this the way they have imported this. If the motor are mounted on the chassis, the import is different versus the motor just brought in, which is like 15 to 35% this thing. Then good manufacturing practice tag mandatory for pharma firms. Recently, this is important because of the cough syrup related stuff, and some of the reason why we need it is because these are generic companies. They have poor documentation. They might have structural deficiency, cross contamination, or not or ill qualified employees. So important for them to take the mandatory certificate. Um, Beijing had very high rainfall, heaviest in the last 40 years, 140 years. And Niger also opens up its border. Another article is Disney Star targets for wider reach base for Asia Cup. This is based on the increased spending in ads. So the company expects that ad spending will be increased from FMCG, auto, e-commerce, etc. And they've also created a self-serve platform for their advertisers to choose whatever ticket size they want to. And there's this interesting article on 2011 US rating downgrade and some Jharkhand connection, and how did that person have to drop off or resign. BCCI, I think they are not getting many uh, people applying for rights, so they are also asking Amazon and Google for them. So that's it for today.